Matt's financial and geopolitical from a frontier. Thank you for stopping by. I hope the week's gone well. They whiz by, don't they? Let me start off with some macro thoughts. Eric Scott Hunt Sader, the Nasdaq 100 ETF, fell the equivalent of nearly 2,000 Dow Jones points in minutes. And you can see what he's talking about. And this speaks again to this extreme volatility we're seeing, which is just unprecedented in so many different assets. Bloomberg, the one chart that shows how petrified everyone is over China. Have a look at the chart. And if you care to have a look at some of the articles I wrote, 7th of September, China must fix its economy despite a military show. Holger tweeted, Shanghai composite ended nearly unchanged at 3,200. And he put up this image. On the 31st of August, I wrote that China's volatility is causing influenza across Africa. And on the 24th of August 2015, China roils the markets. So it's been China on my mind, and it's seemingly from that Bloomberg business chart, it's been on the mind of the markets as well. Home thoughts, I like this photograph that Thomas Mutahi tweeted, stunning photography by Laurent Baeux, and it's clearly of a leopard, or is it a cheetah, I'm not sure. Salman Rushdie retweeted my tweet to him on September the 9th when I said, my 9-year-old daughter Hannah has discovered my copy of Haroun and the Sea of Stories, which is a lovely book. And I said, welcome to your latest fan. And that took me back to my favourite quote from his book Imaginary Homelands, where he says, ours is the most cryptic of centuries, its true nature a dark secret. And I was flicking through the New Yorker website and I came across this. Imagination only fails us in the end when the stories we tell ourselves have to stop. Political reflections, let me take out just one quote from an article. I was reading Putin's flanking actions in Syria, indeed. Vladimir Putin, obviously under tremendous pressure, and I think going to come under more pressure with lower oil price. Now Goldman Sachs is predicting $20 a barrel. But nevertheless, this is quite a bold step he's made. He's sort of putting a lot of meat behind his support of Assad. It is not a problem to get you documents. You just have to have a lot of money. This is one of refugees. And I'll put up a photograph of the boat. It really is symbolic of this era, isn't it, of this period. People floating on the high seas, trying to get away from places and go to new places. Saudi Arabia has reportedly responded to the growing number of people fleeing the Middle East by offering to build 200 mosques in Germany. When I tweeted that, it got quite a few responses, and I ended up by saying I thought, these are really instruments of control. Telegraph magazine, Ai Weiwei, it takes a monster as big as the state to turn me into an innocent hero. Leopoldo López, Venezuela's opposition leader, has been sentenced to 13 years in prison. Now, speaking about this unbearable stress that's being brought to bear, I said the end is nigh for crude oil and oil producers from Caracas to Luanda, from Riyadh to Abuja. And this is Caracas responding to that pressure, just as Dos Santos and Angola has had to respond, or has been responding. Today is the anniversary, 14 years later, of 9/11. I remember being at the trading desk and watching that happen right in front of my eyes. And that took me back to Thomas Pynchon's Gravity's Rainbow. A screaming came across the sky. It has happened before, but there is nothing to compare it now. Currency markets, the euro briefly topped 113, but we're back at 112.63. Dollar index probably moved, but around the 95.50 level. Japanese yen 120.62, Swissy 0.9728, the pound 154.25. The Aussie has been staging a bit of a recovery, 0.7059, better than expected August Australian employment data. India rupee 66.405, South Korean won 1183.20. Rial, which has come under tremendous pressure after being downgraded to junk at 385.21, Egyptian pound 782.84, South African rand, when I checked, 1364. Dollar index, let me put up a 1 month chart. Expectations of a rate hike next week have been ebbing, and that explains why we're seeing a bit of a pullback. Euro dollar, same thing applies. That's why we've seen the euro make progress. Let me put up that chart, a 1 month chart. We're now at 112.63. Gold, last trading at 1107. I think that's going to break down again. Goldman Sachs is saying that oil could drop as low as $20 a barrel. Cut its oil price forecast as it sees a global glut persisting into 2016 on further OPEC production growth that may force prices to drop as low as $20 a barrel. Bank trimmed its 2016 estimate for WTI to $45 a barrel from a May projection of $57 a barrel, according to an email research note Friday. Goldman also reduced its 2016 Brent crude prediction to $49.50 a barrel from $62 a barrel. That took me back to the 12th of January when I spoke about the oil warfare specialist President Obama having successfully wrestled crude to below $50 a barrel, and with that effecting a chokehold on Vladimir Putin's Russia, Venezuela, and others as far as Nigeria and Angola. And a while back I said, if the 21st century oil warfare specialist POTUS takes the oil price down to $20 a barrel, President Nicolas Maduro and others will be toast in the blink of an eye. Goldman Sachs is now predicting $20 a barrel. Crude oil, let me put up a 3 month chart of that. We're around the $45 a barrel price. Holger tweets, Robusta coffee trades near a 2-year low as Brazil real slumps. I'll put up that chart, that's come off dramatically. Brazil's bonds tumble after S&P downgrade to junk. 10-year government bond dollar yield jumps over 6%. That's a big move. Here in Africa, Homo naledi appears to have buried its dead. A behavior scientists previously thought was limited only to humans. Standing at the entrance to the cave this week, Berger said, "We have just encountered another species that perhaps thought about its own mortality and went to great risk and effort to dispose of its dead in a deep, remote chamber right behind us." It absolutely questions what makes us human, and I don't think we know anymore what does. Let me put up a reconstruction of the skull and hand of Homo naledi, a human ancestor discovered in South Africa. This is a photograph from the New York Times. President Museveni and the First Lady have made a state call on Emperor Akihito and Empress Michiko at the Imperial Palace in Japan. Meanwhile, at home, the opponent Mbabazi has been tear-gassed. I like this tweet from Tristan McConnell. Africa's problems stem from dictators, jihadis, and aid workers, says the Rift author Alex Perry. UN says rights violations are escalating in Congo ahead of the elections. Political tensions are rising, culminating in a presidential vote in November 2016. Kabila is required by the constitution to stand down, but critics accuse him of trying to hold on to power. At least 40 people were killed in anti-government protests in January. There's a palpable sense of crisis in Angola, say observers of the country. That's largely because of the plummeting price of oil. Luanda is bubbling. Angolans don't have an appetite for revolution. but something could provide the trigger, she said, noting that many centres of disaffection with the government were coalescing. And on the 10th of August, I said the revolution is only just beginning. I was quoting Richard Kapuscinski: if the crowd disperses, goes home, does not reassemble, we say the revolution is over. And that goes back to that comment about the end being nigh. We just looked at Caracas, I was looking at Luanda. South African countries, and I was writing over the weekend where I said some African countries like Angola are loading the balance sheet with debt because this unprecedented and disjunctive slowdown is increasing regime change risks. I said the problem with this strategy is that if the commodity markets do not rebound, then you're going to be in a very bad place. This strategy of adding more leverage in the down market could compound the situation big time down the road. I said the commodity markets move in broad sweeps. Those hoping for a Hail Mary pass and betting their countries on that pass look to me like they are making a bad bet with potentially outsized tail risks. As Nassim Taleb points out, debt increases tail risk, whether it's personal, corporate, or governmental. A rise in debt, he warns, implies nothing less than a rise in the risk of catastrophe. The Angola Kwanza weakened 5.3% to 132.6, falling to a record and extending its losses this year to 22%. Bloomberg asked, which country will devalue their currency next? Libya, Equatorial Guinea, and Oman, they say. Damina advisors have even developed an African commodity price collapse instability index nicknamed Hades, based on his estimate that 87% of African government revenues are directly or indirectly linked to commodities. Damina lists 3 states, South Sudan, Libya, and the Central African Republic, as being at extremely or very high risk of collapse. And a further 5, Equatorial Guinea, Chad, Democratic Republic of Congo, Lesotho, and Guinea, is high risk. South Africa's richest man berates the state over flawed policies. The one industry where South Africa consistently outperformed the world since 1994 was tourism, Weezer, who's 74, said in an interview. Then we impose new visa regulations that no one can explain, and the effect is immediate. We shoot ourselves through both feet and then claim unintended consequence. South African all shares down 0.486% this year. Data from Market show that 5-year credit default swaps for South Africa rose 7 basis points to 272 basis points, which is the highest since April 2009. Dollar rand, let me put up a 6-month chart, but I don't think it's put in a bottom yet. Egyptian pound, I'll put up a 3-month chart. They're holding it in there, but the forwards are looking for a big devaluation. EGX 30 down 21.14% year to date. Nigerian all share down 15.15% year to date. Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index down 7.607% year to date. Facebook reporting that they've cleaned up with users in Nigeria and Kenya. Nigeria had 15 million monthly active users, all of them using mobile. In Kenya, 95% of the 4.5 million monthly active users did so via mobiles. Mobile is not a trend, it's the fastest adoption of disruptive technology in the history of communication, said Nunu Shingila, Facebook's head of Africa, in a statement. Padresh, who tweets from Burundi, tweeted, "Peace and love. Yes, I can, somewhere over the rainbow," in Burundi. Kenya ICC has made public arrest warrants it had issued in confidence against 2 Kenyans on allegations of interfering with witnesses. The 2 are lawyer Paul Gicheru and Philip Kipkoech Bet. The pre-trial Chamber 2 judges said that since the 2 were arrested by the Kenya police on July the 30th, at the request of the ICC, the warrants could no longer be kept secret. Following the arrest of these 2 suspects in Nairobi and the notification of this fact to the office of the prosecutor, by the Kenyan authorities on the 24th of August. The pre-trial chamber of the ICC unsealed these warrants of arrest earlier today. This is Fatou Bensouda in a statement on Thursday. She's been digging deep and pushing back hard. ICC judges said the witness corruption case should be handled in The Hague because they doubted Kenya's willingness to prosecute Icheru and Beck. And this is the indictment. Judges thought effective national prosecution was unlikely to take place. Listen to this. Due to the size and extent of organization and the alleged criminal effort to corruptly influence witnesses. Paris-based global reinsurance firm SCOR is to enter the Kenyan market after getting regulatory approval by the Insurance Regulatory Authority. The insurance sector remains red hot. When I last checked, Kenya shilling was at 105.645. Nairobi all shares down 10.25% this year, but has rallied 6.312% since the 27th of August, when both indices closed at a 2015 low. NSE 20 lagging the all shares down 17.5%, but up 136 points since closing at a 2015 low on the 27th of August. A lot of interest in the shilling. Let me read what I wrote yesterday. Yesterday it was trading at 105.45 versus a multi-year low just shy of 106.80. I said the governor has played a difficult, complex, at times supremely fluid hand with some finesse, and I do feel that. The dollar strength versus frontier and sub-Saharan African currencies has been like a freight train. Standing in front of a freight train is not a sensible option. But I feel that the shilling might now have printed its 2015 low, which I appreciate as a minority call. But if I was looking to put a trade on, I would sell 110 protection, probably 5 or 6 points, which means I'm short at about. I make money unless it goes over 116. That's the sort of trading I would look to do. Nairobi all share firm 0.467% yesterday. Safaricom was unchanged. Barclays Bank very actively traded 10.246 million shares, but it's down 22.45% year to date. Equity Bank has rallied very, very sharply. Let me read you what I wrote. Snapped back 22.29% since 27th of August. As you know, that was the closing low for the indices. Equity Group overshot to the downside as a deluge of supply was traded in the market on the exit of Helios. That line of stock has now been absorbed, and hence the vigorous snap back. As I was just recounting my visit to the Tanga Clinker facility, which was organised by ARM, my interest was further piqued because my family had actually lived in Tanga in the 1940s. ARM has spent $140 million, including capitalised interest, on the clinker plant in Tanga. Clinker is the main component of cement. The plant is expected to produce 4,000 tonnes of clinker a day, and ARM uses a conservative accounting methodology to multiply that by 300 days. Some people play around with the days to show an increased capacity, but they're conservative in that call. Share price closed high yesterday, 2.04%, very badly oversold for now. Let me put up a photograph of Pradeep receiving us all that morning. Big mover yesterday was EABL, which rallied 4.195% to close at 298. That was on the back of a report that Diageo was considering raising its majority stake in the brewer Guinness Nigeria to 70%, a deal that would cost them about $200 million. People extrapolated from that they might do the same here, where recently foreign exchange caps, which have been kept in place for a long time, were lifted in their entirety. Moving as sugar, 13 buyers for every seller, and up 11.42% over 2 sessions, but I think a little bit of profit taking coming into play today. I wish you a tremendous weekend. I appreciate the fact you turn up and watch this podcast, and if you're at this point, you really are valued. Thank you.